Reality TV competitions have helped launch the careers of countless performers. But in the mid-2000s, musical theatre composer and questionable human Andrew Lloyd Webber took things to a new level by using reality television to cast leading roles in West End musicals. It was a bold experiment, mixing high-stakes theatre with the drama of elimination-based competition. But did it work? Did they age well? And what do these shows say about the evolution of musical theatre in our modern era? Buckle in, because we have a lot to discuss.
By the early 2000s, reality television was dominating the airwaves. Singing competitions like Pop Idol and The X Factor proved that audiences were invested in the journey of discovering new talent and getting to know them as people as well as performers. Andrew Lloyd Webber saw an opportunity, not just to promote musical theatre to the masses, but to directly cast a fresh face in a major West End production, with the twist being, the general public would decide who to cast. The first of these shows was How Do You Solve a Problem Like Maria, which aired in 2006 and sought to find a new leading lady for a London revival of The Sound of Music. I can't believe this show is nearly 20 years old, because I have clear memories of it, and to think I have clear memories of something from 20 years ago makes me feel old. Anyway, the twist was that the contestants had to be completely unknowns. They couldn't be an actress already on the West End, they had to be amateurs. After How Do You Solve a Problem Like Maria, Lloyd Webber led a search for Joseph in his own musical, Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, in a TV show called Any Dream Will Do. Then, he moved on to casting Oliver's Nancy in I'd Do Anything in 2008. And finally, casting Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz in the show Over the Rainbow. It's interesting reflecting on these shows all these years on, because a lot of the contestants went on to be some of the biggest names in musical theatre, which isn't something you often see in reality talent shows. Often contestants fade into obscurity in their industries, and often being on a reality show will make it harder for you to book jobs. But that definitely wasn't the case for these shows. Anyway, let's go through these shows one by one and draw out some key themes and reflect on their impact. How Do You Solve a Problem Like Maria really sets the scene with its opening titles. This image of Marias fighting each other in the hills of Austria is so unhinged, and unhinged is probably the word I'd use to describe these shows as a whole. The premise is that 10 contestants are chosen from thousands of auditionees to perform live each week, with the public voting and one person being eliminated each episode. One of the overarching themes that Lloyd Webber kept harping on about is how all previous productions of The Sound of Music have a Maria who is far too old. And when he says that, you would assume he's thinking like age 40 plus for a character we know to be in their early 20s. But no, he specifies that he thinks the actress portraying Maria should be 18 to 21 maybe. This is such a double standard in musical theatre, and ageism against women is so rampant. This conversation would never be happening if it was a male lead we were hiring. But keep in mind, this was 20 years ago, and generally speaking, the theatre industry is less unkind around ages nowadays. But it's certainly still a thing where women are disproportionately judged for their age. I rewatched this series to prepare for the video, and something I didn't pick up on when I was watching this as a child was how much overt misogyny and sexism is in this show. The producer, David Ian, was so creepy to these young women, some as young as 17. Half of the comments the judges had at these auditions were about girls' appearance, rather than their singing. But there was this brilliant moment where the host, Graham Norton, reacts by calling Ian a slime ball.
That was as beautiful as you were, I think. Thank you very much. Zoe, did that...
Such an old slime ball, David Ian.
Your natural persona to us is a beautiful woman that's appeared between the R and I in Maria, and you're serene, and your beauty is one of much serenity.
Especially back 20 years ago when this sort of behaviour was not regularly called out. So much respect for Graham for this. In the final round before live shows, they eliminated girls in the most brutal way. And they do this for several of the shows too, not just Maria. They get all the girls to sing The Sound of Music, and slowly they go round and tap the shoulders of girls who are eliminated. Like, what? What sadistic person came up with this idea? Anyway, we move on to the live show, where each episode the girls sing a song and then get comments from the judges, like other singing talent shows. What's interesting is they don't just sing show tunes, they sing mainly pop songs. And this happened across the other series too. This show preceded Glee, but it did the Glee thing of kind of meshing musical theatre voicing and performance styles with pop music. And together with Glee, I wonder if it inspired future jukebox musicals. In the first live show, they announced that one of the girls who was originally put through, Emily, decided to pull out. The way they approached this really rubbed me the wrong way. Throughout Maria's school in the previous episodes, Emily was treated poorly. Zoe Tyler in particular was so sarcastic and patronising to her. And the cameraman following her when she asked for space was just nasty. And the show rubbed salt in the wound by faking this letter that she supposedly sent to them about how she's too good for this and is sticking to opera training instead. She reports that they completely made this up and she never wrote a letter, but instead left because of the negative environment and because she was encouraged to sing with a damaged voice. The judges say some pretty nasty things, including Tyler accusing Emily of drinking in excess and being an arrogant diva. And Lloyd Webber even managed a "what is it you can't face" jab.
You must be upset that she decided to leave.
Yes, and I'm sorry she's gone. I wanted to say to her face, what is it you can't face? But...
What is it you can't face?
I never expected to hear that joke said anywhere other than on Drag Race. But there you go. Moving on, another girl they were particularly unkind to is Simona. She was one of the strongest, if not the strongest, singer in the cast. However, she got criticised for her accent. She was Romanian, and the only critique she would get is that, "Oh, you've got an accent, that will be distracting for the audience." There was xenophobic microaggressions within these comments, and it's made more ridiculous by the fact that they're telling all these girls that they need an RP English accent, when they're portraying a canonically Austrian character. Also, it doesn't really change the story if Maria has a different accent to the rest of the cast. In fact, it could work really well and be a subtle nod to the fact that she is different from the captain and his family, or from her sisters at the convent. Okay, so for the results show, they sing a group song, which is often camp as heck. I loved the group numbers. They did get better for the latter shows though, so I'll tell you about a few of them when we get to I Do Anything. But also in the results show, they have some pre-recorded footage from a challenge the girls had to do during that week, such as an acting class, a dancing class, etc. But there's one in particular I rewatched back and audibly gasped that they let this happen and put it on TV. They're doing this acting class with John Barrowman, and then he asks them to come in one by one to do a scene, not telling them that he's going to unconsensually kiss them during it. This was so uncomfortable to watch, and gave the audience this idea, especially the young audience who are seeking a musical theatre career, that it's an appropriate way for someone casting or coaching you to behave. Then they do this live performance on the show where Barrowman kisses them all again, and it just turns into a catfight of them fighting over him, and ugh. It's just textbook mid-2000s misogynistic television. But the show ends with the bottom two being announced and them having to do a sing-off to a musical theatre song. But they sing the song at the same time, so one of them sings one line, the other sings the next line, etc. Then the decision is up to Andrew Lloyd Webber. And now we come to the reason why I wanted to make this video in the first place. When each girl is eliminated, she has to sing a song with the group. It's the same song every week, and it's just so brutal. You know this girl has just had her dream come to an end, and then all the girls who are still in the competition start happily singing goodbye. Let me just show you.
So long, farewell, I'll be to say goodnight. I hate to go and keep this pretty sky.
So that's how the show works. Spoilers ahead, so 3, 2, 1. The winner ended up being Connie Fisher, and she went on to be the West End's Maria in The Sound of Music at the Palladium. Connie's story is quite sad though, as she ended up developing holes in her vocal cords, and after just a few years in the industry, could no longer sing. In part, this was due to her being pressurised to sing through vocal injuries, something that is sadly common in the industry. Connie wasn't the only member of the cast to end up in musical theatre. Nearly all of them ended up in a West End show at some point. One thing that stood out to me when rewatching this was how undiverse the series was. Every contestant was slim and white, and that was just unrepresentative of real life. And it's good to know that theatre has changed in these 20 years since then. And we now see people of colour and people in bigger bodies in shows that would previously exclude them. Moving on to the next show, Any Dream Will Do. This was a search for Joseph for the West End production of Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. Comparing the way that male contestants were treated compared to the female contestants in the previous series validated everything I just said about industry misogyny. Anyway, the show was structured in the same way as Maria, and again, they had the most unhinged way of eliminating contestants, making them sing the song about doors being closed to them. They introduced a new thing for this series that they continued into the rest, which is the eliminated contestant having to remove a piece of their clothing, which is symbolic to the show. So in Any Dream Will Do, this involves the contestant who beat the eliminated contestant in the sing-off having to remove that eliminated person's coat. The next series featured a search for Nancy in Oliver, and the amount of huge stars that came out of this cast is wild. The winner, Jodie Prenger, went on to appear on stage and screen, including in the cast of Annie, Tell Me on a Sunday, Les Mis, Calamity Jane, and the show I saw her in, Spamalot. She's also featured in various TV shows, Coronation Street most notably. The runner-up, Jessie Buckley, received an Olivier Award for her portrayal of Sally Bowles in Cabaret, and also has tons of other stage and screen credits. A 17-year-old Samantha Barks competed on this series, and she went on to star as Eponine in both the stage production and the 2012 film of Les Mis. She's also starred in Chicago, Frozen, Chess, and Oliver itself, despite not winning the show. Rachel Tucker was also on this series, and is probably best known for portraying Elphaba on both the West End and Broadway. She's also been in Come From Away, We Will Rock You, Sunset Boulevard, and a lot more. A moment from I Do Anything that is secured in my memories is when Rachel and Samantha ended up in the bottom two together and had to battle it out to Memory from Cats. This was such an emotional performance, and even Lloyd Webber looked close to tears watching it. It's wild to see these two performing as unknowns at this point in this song, when a few years later, they'd be two of the biggest names in musical theatre. Something they started to nail in I Do Anything is the group songs. These tended to feature in the results show, and there were so many really fun ones. The one I remember most is when they sang I'm Gonna Wash That Man Right Out of My Hair while sat in these tiny bathtubs. But they also did some great pop song covers, including Sound of the Underground by Girls Aloud. Something else they did on I Do Anything was search for a handful of boys to play Oliver. Like the Nancys, they auditioned young boys and had them perform weekly, however on a much less intense scale, thankfully. The boys had to perform a group number once a week, and at the end of show 3 were chosen off-camera to play Oliver. None of them went on to have musical theatre careers after the show, it seems, though. Googling them, they entered all sorts of careers, including a psychotherapist, a journalist, and even a professional wrestler. You often hear of child actors losing their passion when they're pushed into an intense workload so young. And I can't help but wonder if this impacted some of the boys. Right, let's move on to the final series, Over the Rainbow and the Search for Dorothy. Like the other series, they started with an audition and then a bootcamp phase. Like the prior series, when they select the final group, they got the girls to sing the title song while they tap people out one by one. And this one was definitely the most brutal. This was a really tough watch. They added a new stage to this series and had the audience vote on the final 10 during a live show. So they had 20 girls performing groups, including one musical theatre song and one pop song. And these performances, especially the musical theatre ones, were really good. Each group was coached by a huge name in the industry, including Kerry Ellis, Sheridan Smith, and Ruthie Henschel. Anyway, the audience voted to get us down to 10 Dorothys, and then the usual live show format continues. Like the previous shows, when someone gets eliminated, they leave in the most camp way. They have to remove their shoes, which get handed to Lloyd Webber by whichever Dorothy beat them in the sing-off. Then they have to sit on this moon and sing Over the Rainbow and then disappear into the rafters of the building. It's so unnecessarily dramatic. Over the Rainbow had some of the best group songs, especially the mashup format ones. This came out just as Glee was becoming big, and I feel like Glee and Over the Rainbow collectively popularised the modern mashup. They had some really good arrangements. Interestingly, they did a mashup of Singing in the Rain and Umbrella. Yes, just like Glee did it, but they actually did it first. So I wonder if the Glee creatives were inspired by this show. Something that was always unintentionally funny to me was when they would cut to Andrew Lloyd Webber's live reactions. He clearly doesn't enjoy when they sing pop, so especially during those musical theatre and pop mashups, seeing him enjoying the musical theatre and then cringing as the pop starts is always funny to me. In addition to auditioning for a Dorothy, the show also did a search for a Toto. This was so cute, and we saw the doggy hopefuls taking part in challenges just like the girls did, and this was a lot of fun. Like I'd Do Anything, some pretty big names came out of this show. The winner was Danielle Hope, who went on to star in Les Mis, Grease, and Kinky Boots, among other shows. The runner-up, Sophie Evans, is probably best known for being Glinda in the West End production of Wicked. Coincidentally, she sung Glinda's song Popular in her Over the Rainbow audition. These shows ended up with a lot of future Wicked stars, as the third-place contestant Lauren Samuels was also in Wicked as Elphaba on the US national tour. Steph Fearon starred in Rent, A Chorus Line, and Cinderella, but is probably better known for featuring in various children's TV shows, including My Parents' Aliens. Jessica Robinson went on to feature in Mamma Mia, Les Mis, and Evita. And finally, Stephanie Davis is probably best known for her TV appearances, including Hollyoaks, Coronation Street, and Celebrity Big Brother. The shows and their impact. These shows weren't just about casting. They turned musical theatre into must-watch TV. Each week, audiences engaged with musical theatre in a way rarely seen outside of Broadway or the West End. The contestants performed classic songs, worked with industry professionals, and underwent rigorous training in singing, acting, and dancing. The theatrical community's reaction. But not everyone in the theatre world was thrilled. Traditionalists worried that these shows undermined the credibility of professional casting. Unlike a normal audition process, where training, experience, and versatility are scrutinised, these competitions allowed the general public to vote based on personal preference rather than expertise. Critics especially felt this was the case for I'd Do Anything, where many believed that Jodie Prenger's win was influenced by her enticing personality. Personally, I disagree. I think both Jodie and Jessie were fabulous performers. Yes, perhaps Jessie had a slightly better vocal technique, but I think Jodie acted the role better, and musical theatre is more than just singing. Other professionals in the industry saw the positives with the shows. The shows generated mass interest in theatre, giving it the kind of mainstream visibility usually reserved for pop music and film. I've already talked about the contestants who didn't win that still secured successful theatre careers, which proves that these competitions, if nothing else, were a showcase for emerging talent. This was kind of an anomaly with these reality television shows. Often contestants disappear into obscurity and don't have successful careers. You can name on one hand the amount of X Factor or Pop Idol contestants who made it to the mainstream. And sometimes featuring on a reality show will completely alienate you from the industry you want to work in. For example, many America's Next Top Model contestants reported that many professionals in the fashion industry won't even see a girl who's featured on the show, and there were very few post-show success stories. But there were countless successful careers that originated from these shows. Many of these girls actually inspired people to come and see the shows as they had connected with them on TV and wanted to see them perform live. The Legacy and the End of the Era. Despite their popularity, Webber's reality shows eventually disappeared from TV. Over the Rainbow was the last of its kind, airing in 2010. There were rumours of more competitions, but shifting television trends and the rise of streaming made large-scale weekly live voting shows less viable. Still, the impact of these competitions linger. They helped make musical theatre more accessible, expanded its audience, and even influenced casting in later years. I can say that it was probably these shows that first got me interested in musical theatre when I was a kid. Today, social media and YouTube allow performers to showcase their talent more directly, but these reality shows paved the way for a more public, audience-driven approach to casting.
Andrew Lloyd Webber's competition shows were a fascinating experiment. A blend of entertainment, marketing, and legitimate theatre discovery. While they may not have lasted long, they undeniably made an impact on the West End and the careers of many of its performers. But what do you think? Should reality TV play a role in casting musical theatre stars? Should we bring back a show like this? Or is the traditional audition process the best way to go? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe as I'm hoping to make more long-form content in the future.